Dr. Jayant Khandare is an academician par excellence. He has a master's degree in pharmacy and a PhD in chemical engineering. Dr. Khandare, presently the director of MIT School of Consciousness and Reality, has nearly 2 decades of teaching and research experience in Bi-polymer science, micromolecular chemistry, cancer biology, etc. He has guided over 50 students of pharmacy in their projects from UG to PhD level. With over 100 talks delivered by Dr. Jayant Khandare till date, he is amongst the most sought after speakers in the country today.
I'm going to talk about what does it take to bring into a clinical technology and what was an objective actually when we started this circulating tumor cells detection as a liquid biopsy. And I was interviewed by Doordarshan and they asked, various questions. What is the motive of actually some researchers getting into a scientific problem? So very honestly, I said that, look, last 12 years, I have not actually been into any channels of new channels, what goes in this country. And I'm sure that what is going in this state today is probably more interesting than my talk for next 16 minutes, but definitely worthwhile to understand what does government feel about innovators, particularly into the line of importing medical devices. If you look at the figures that Niti Aayog actually suggests, we import about $6 billion of import material into medical devices. Indirectly, we do not create anything. So 80% of medical devices have been imported. So the part number 1, cancer is definitely the king or the emperor of maladies. Statistics number 1, developed countries, the morbidity of disease, deaths in cancer is extremely high. 23% in US and 25% in Europe. Is that a good news? It's a bad news. What is a good news for Indian population, Indian phenotype? We have only 9% of incidences of cancer. Is that as a great news? Yes, definitely, because we are a developing countries. The moment we transform from the developing country into developed country, the major cause of death would be actually the cancer. The choice is whether we want to be a developed country. In my own way, that let us be a developing country in our lifetime and not get it into the systems. So look into the global cancer data, which is little alarming. So 18.3 million cases were actually incidences in 2018. What was the mortality rate over there? More than 9 million people died in 2018 alone. That's a very high number. Look into the incidences of cancer in India. 1.2 million people had new cases and about 0.8 million people were the morbidity. 60% was the mortality rate. And compared to the European and American data, 5-year survival is very, very low, about 30% over to 60%. Now, what is interesting and what is challenging over here, that every country has different methodologies of getting into the cancer. India actually persists into the head and neck cancer. We are short number 1, and no other developed country does a research onto our problems. They discover what is actually their problem. If you look into the breast cancer and cervical cancer, the good news over there is that only 25 females get cancer in 1 lakh population, which is consistent since last several decades. And this number is very, very high in, say, UK, for example, more than 200 numbers. The best and finest country where I am planning to have my next vacation is New Zealand and Australia, because I have been a global trotter for the long time. But remember, this beautiful country has highest number of cancer incidences, especially in New Zealand, which is 550 compared to 1 lakh population. So our population gets only 25 versus, almost 500,000. Unfortunately, it is disheartening to know that our best oncologists who work in this country, very predominantly in population, only 2,000 patients get one oncologist. And our best oncologists leave this country, go to Ireland, go to the UK. So the population versus oncologists is very dismal. So whatever going in this country is if you look at the Tata Memorial Hospital, do not, you need to be very strong to visit Tata Memorial Hospital, which I do almost every month 2 times. The apathy of these patients is very, very bad. That's a case number 1 that I'm trying to talk. The company spin-off actually by me has been supported by taxpayers' money, because this objective of actually developing something and the health minister actually inaugurating this in a September is not a very short story. If you ask me how much money and how much time actually you require to discover or form a technology, or in US, you need $100 million. Let us be very straightforward. If you want to discover, bring a technology to market, you need $100 million. Therefore, big companies do not make affordable devices, affordable diagnostics, or neither the treatment. So it's a straight way. Poor people cannot afford technologies which actually can detect, forget about the treatment. How much time it takes? Probably 10 years. What is the success rate of bringing actually such technologies in the market? Only 0.1%. Is it worth to actually set up your 10 years of a time with 0.1% of a success rate probability? Is actually very, very challenging. And thankfully, actually, day before yesterday, as Dr. Pandey mentioned, I feel proud, privileged, and humble that the Minister of Commerce actually welcomed, gave a citation for the best innovation in this country that ever has happened in medical devices. So it's very fancy to be a technologist.